Straight ahead, the undisputed king of stage is in Spokane, but what you'll find backstage is just as astounding as what you'll see out front. I'll take you inside the puppet shop to show you the secrets of making 25 kinds of animals, birds, and fish come alive. Also, what's underneath the 9-inch thick floor that travels with the show across the country? You'll hear from the show's stars what it's like to be a part of a groundbreaking musical, and how music, masks, and grass from around the world bring the Serengeti to your theater seat.
Welcome to The Lion King, your backstage pass. Now, here's your host, Susanna Balon.
Good evening. You can feel the excitement here in the air at the Spokane Opera House. The Lion King is finally here, and all the lucky ticket holders behind me will soon be treated to the most memorable, moving, and original theatrical extravaganzas in years. For the next half hour, though, I've got your backstage pass. Before I take you there, I want to take you out to the streets to show you what it took to bring the Lion King to Spokane.
Spokane is the smallest market in the world to host the Lion King, and the 6-week run of the show here makes it the longest running single event since Expo 74. On a cold day in May earlier this year, these folks were already into all the buzz and lined up for hours to be among the first to purchase tickets.
In the circle of life.
And consider this, for every $1 spent on a ticket, that translates to $2 into our economy. Do the math, with 120,000 seats and 46 performances, that equals between $10 and $15 million.
Here's more math to consider. When you enter the theater, you'll notice a dramatic difference in the seating.
100 less seats. Before the show could come in, the seats had to come out, creating 2 aisles down the Opera House's familiar continental seating style. These workers spent a couple of days carving the path that will become the Serengeti. Picture the new aisles alive with a colorful parade of animals that bombard you at the beginning of the show as they saunter past your seat.
The seats, though, are just the start of what it takes to make the Lion King come to life. If you'd looked out the doors to the Spokane Opera House earlier this week, you would have witnessed a convoy.
But the Lion King load-in began with just 1 truck carrying the necessities for the foundation of the show's set. Several dozen locals have been hired to help, and you'll find no one standing still with nothing to do.
To put this whole thing together is like putting together a jigsaw puzzle.
More than half a year in the planning, it's all starting to come together. The load-in looks almost like the parade of animals, minus the animals, of course.
Same thing along the back wall, please.
Everything here has its place and purpose. This traveling roadshow, coming most recently from Portland, has load-in down to a science. And with some 20 trucks, it's no wonder. There's no time to spare, and the show must go on.
The show you'll see here is similar to the one you'd see if you traveled to Broadway.
Still ahead, from the costumes to the choreography, there's no holding back. But first, how computers, creative storage, and brilliant backstage hands keep a complicated set organized for every show. That's when The Lion King, your backstage pass, continues.
Welcome back. So many things about the Lion King in Spokane are unique. You've already learned this is the smallest size market to play host to the Broadway musical. And Spokane is one of the rare spots where you can see some of the puppets and costumes up close in all their whimsy and glory.
Before the trucks pulled into town, some much-loved characters landed at the historic Davenport Hotel to plenty of oohs and ahs. These are on display through the end of November. Here you can get closer to the costumes than even the front row ticket holders at the show. The detail, incredible. Each piece handcrafted. As you're looking at these, you're probably wondering, they look heavy. How much do they weigh? And what exactly are they made of?
I'll show you that still ahead, but first, the load-in of the set's complete. Let me give you a glimpse as to what was inside some of those 20 trucks as I now take you backstage and into the wings to show you how all that stuff fits. I'm backstage now with Michael Nye, and he calls himself a glorified secretary, but actually he's the head carpenter for this show.
That means he has to have top-notch organizational skills for the tons of sets and props.
Something that's a lot of people don't realize is this particular show, you have to modify a lot of things to make it fit. It's not a lot of theaters that are really set up for a show this big.
A huge undertaking, and the biggest monster of all, the deck that covers the stage.
The deck itself is probably the better part of 3 tractor trailers worth of equipment to get this set up. Between all the hydraulics, electrical cables, sound, and there's countless things in this deck that nobody actually realizes are in there. This guy makes an appearance in the show. I won't,
You don't have to say who.
I won't go into
We'll let the audience
go
be
into it,
surprised.
but he's he makes an appearance nightly, and it's another hydraulic effect. It actually involves hydraulic and just regular electronics make him work. So it's another pretty massive piece of special effects that you'll see for about that long.
But works to make the whole show magical.
Absolutely.
Storage space is at a premium backstage, with the prime real estate up above.
And the majority of the show, if you want to think about weight-wise, is in the air.
So if we look up right now, we see an elephant above us. We see the elephant graveyard.
Part of it, big crocodile, ostrich, we have all sorts of things. And then there's just as much on the other side.
And it's not just about storage. These items have to be used during the show and shuffled around like a well-choreographed dance surrounded by chaos.
Well, imagine getting stampeded by hundreds of wildebeest. It happens in The Lion King, but that's one of the secrets of the show that's safe with us. You're gonna have to come to see it for yourself.
The most impressive set piece, Pride Rock. It operates by remote control and computer, retracts, and runs on its own track.
I'm now at the top of Pride Rock, and I'm sitting because, well, for safety's sake for myself. But when the actors and actresses are here, they're actually standing, and look, they have little cutout footholds so that they can stabilize themselves. Not a bad idea at all. All right, let's see if we can move this thing.
And if everyone's doing their job, it's smooth moving for this 7,000-pound piece.
Well, it wouldn't be the total Pride Rock experience if at the top you didn't have something or someone to present. I present to you Simba, the Lion King.
Enough playing. I'd better let these guys get back to work as they gear up for another day, another show.
The actors in The Lion King have more than just an elaborate set to deal with. They have masks, puppets, and other costume challenges to maneuver. I'll give you a fascinating look inside the puppet shop a little later. But first, let's meet the man who makes Mufasa a Lion King.
Simba, let me tell you something my father told me.
Watching Rufus Bonds Jr. on stage, you catch a regal vibe with pure animal instincts that come from, well, pure observation.
Wait, there's no mountain too great.
You look at lions, you look at National Geographic, you look at the animal channels, you see how they move, you see what they pray, what they eat, you do all of that kind of stuff, and then you go home and play.
This show is about four-legged creatures with the hearts of humans.
It's important to me for people to see the relationship between the father and the son, and for them to think about their own relationships. And they remember the moments with their parents, where their parents are living or have gone on.
In every star, in your reflection, they live in you.
The playing pays off, and in Mufasa, we see a down-to-earth dad trying to do with young Simba what any loving father would do.
In your reflection, they live in you.
Roar! I'm now backstage at the Puppet Workshop for The Lion King. When we come back, I'll show you the secrets of how these masks and humans work together to form the magical characters in this show.
And later, down into the orchestra pit, where this woman juggles nearly 20 instruments. That's when The Lion King, your Backstage Pass continues.
Welcome back. Now it's time to take you to my favorite backstage spot. Going into the puppet shop is like being a kid in a candy store. With more than 250 masks, where do you begin?
What takes place here in the puppet shop started out first in the mind and then on paper, belonging to avant-garde theater designer Julie Tamer. Call her the Lion Queen, who rose to the challenge of bringing cartoon animals to life.
This idea of having the human being very visible and yet also having the image of the lion simultaneously, I have termed now a double event.
And that double event begins with masks that don't cover faces,
so that the audience is aware of the human and the animal simultaneously.
Backstage, puppet supervisor Ann Salt heads up keeping them all in good shape. What looks like wood is really a carbon fiber.
And it's like a woven fabric here.
So it's extremely lightweight.
Extremely lightweight. In fact, it's the same material they use on Formula One racing cars.
It feels like you're lifting feathers, and with good reason.
This particular piece we use, this is turkey feathers that we trim down and cut so that it's very lightweight and also it's safe for the actor.
Scar's mask, weighing in at just 9 ounces, is one of the more complex designs with batteries that make it move.
This unit is disguised underneath his costume and he controls it by a little finger control here, and I'll just demonstrate that for you. And he has 2 movements with the mask.
In all the main masks, you'll find a mixture of materials in addition to the carbon fiber.
You can see actually in these 3 pieces here that we were able to use a lot of natural fibers. Simba's actually made from horsehair that we buy and then we attach. It was designed off a combine harvester with the little intricate pieces made out of balsa wood, and there's leather. There's a lot of leather in the show.
And a lot of other animals, like the antelopes made out of traditional African baskets. The giraffes with, again, embellished carbon fiber.
But what's interesting is the hair at the back. This is actually, we use a broom. We cut up a broom to use the hair on the back here, and it's attached to his costume.
Not only are the masks and puppets in this show impressive, but really all of the costumes from head to toe. This top for one of the lionesses, hand beaded, and the rest of their costumes hand stamped. No two are alike, and they're as authentic can be.
Even on these headpieces representing the land, the grass is specifically made for this show.
The same board that is used on aeroplanes. Again, so it's the lightest we can possibly use.
Good to know, because in the show, the women dance with these. Amidst everything, they're Salt's favorite, and I must admit, mine too, Zazu.
He's made out of parachute silk, again, very, very lightweight. The guy that manipulates it in the show, Derek, is amazing. It's quite a difficult puppet to manipulate, as well as acting and dancing.
And how many different controls are there? So you have the handgun.
Yes,
and then back in the...
And then you have the wing control there. And his little neck there, that's actually a little baby slinky inside there.
A slinky in The Lion King, who knew?
Zazu is a high-maintenance piece, but worth it.
So about how many hours does it take to train these actors to do the puppets?
They have 8 weeks to train for it, yeah.
8 weeks.
In the puppet shop, you gain a new respect for all the actors, who must also be puppeteers. This little guy is the smallest critter.
The actors are both manipulating the puppet and projecting the light from behind, casting a shadow onto the screen.
It's hard not to want to play in the puppet shop.
These pieces are again extremely lightweight, if you'd like to hold one. And they leap across the stage with them.
It's kind of fun.
Despite the fun, there's plenty of work to be done. Salt and her crew must do maintenance on a daily basis and are always ready for any potential problems during the show. The biggest disaster to date?
The elephant spine breaking. That was probably the biggest. We were able to fix it and get it in for the next show, and the actors were amazing.
Thanks to the puppet shop, an integral backstage part of The Lion King.
You just saw the Scar mask, the most difficult mask in the show to manipulate. Now meet the talented man who plays the resident bad guy in The Lion King.
Hey, Uncle Scar, guess what?
I despise guessing games.
I'm gonna be king of Pride Rock.
Oh, goody.
From the moment Scar steps onto stage, actor Larry Yando draws us into his world.
I don't look like a lion, and yet I do. And yet you know it's a lion. And it's all sort of this sort of magical mix of someone's really smart mind, which would be Julie Taymor.
Why not?
Simba, Simba, Simba.
It took time for Yando to master working his mask, and now that he's been with the show for 2.5 years.
If one of those pieces of costume is missing or not working correctly, I feel like I've lost an arm. You know, it's that now integral to the whole thing.
You already know how light his mask is. The weight on this costume comes from the battery pack around his waist. You won't see it. The Lion King's goal, when you watch the actors, you make leaps with your mind.
What also is great about that is because of the way it's designed, the audience is imagination and their involvement is immediate, because they don't see a real lion, they have to fill in the blanks. And I think it's one of the genius aspects of this show, because the audience immediately likes to be part of it.
Audiences say your eyes get a treat with The Lion King. Well, so do your ears. Still ahead, the unusual instruments in the show and the strange way that some of them are played.
Also, the actors who play Simba and Nala share their challenges in making every single show a success. We'll be right back.
Djembe, junjun, mbira, kasaba, just some of the names of dozens of instruments from Africa and around the world used in The Lion King. Well, I got to sneak into the orchestra pit down there, where I found a lady who plays 17 of them.
Welcome to Darlene Drew's little corner of the world of The Lion King. It may seem lonely in the orchestra pit, and people often ask Darlene why she's walled in.
The main reason I like to tell people is that, you know, these can actually hurt people.
Reality, her one microphone needs to be isolated so you can clearly hear all 17 of the instruments Darlene plays during the show. And you want to hear. Listening to them is like taking a trip around the world with your ears. There's the regular old flute.
Can play a nice, perfect G major scale on an instrument with keys, but on a bamboo instrument,
the Chinese flute.
So that's another exotic sound. He lives in you. Or to contrast that,
that's the exotic sound you hear when the giraffes saunter onto stage. What the instruments are made of is just as unique as the countries or concepts they come from. One backup instrument may remind you of, well, your home sprinkler system, and with good reason.
So try this at home. And basically you just take a PVC tube, cut it to the length you want, stop the end, take a sprinkler riser and file it off, and you've got a bass pan flute.
The instrument that seems to be everyone's favorite. This is the real one. You hear it at the beginning of the show.
And this was probably one of the hardest ones to learn to play for the show, because it's blown very differently, as you'll notice. It requires a big rush of air. When I first started playing the show, I would just be on the floor. I hardly had anything left after the first number of the show because this took so much effort.
Now, after some sit-ups, Darlene says she has a good 6-pack of abs to get through the number. She's perfected all her pipes. One she plays with the help of a mirror.
What note am I playing? I can't see what I'm playing, so I learned to play this in a mirror. And if you'll notice, I do have the notes in mirror image on the outside. So then I know what I'm doing. Better safe than sorry.
Darlene always sees the score of the show, but in one city, she could actually see a snippet of the stage as the elephants paraded past.
And I was almost in tears the first week because it's just so beautiful. And it's so overwhelming to look up and think, oh my gosh, that's what's going on visually as we're down here.
And there's so much to love. Every moment in The Lion King's primal paradise seems special and awe-inspiring.
The actors never get bored with sharing it all with us. Taria Campbell plays the adult Nala.
And I try to think, this is someone's first time seeing The Lion King, and it may be someone's first time seeing a Broadway show. And I try to make it magical for them, like it was magical for me when I first saw it.
The magic comes with a price. Nala's makeup takes 45 minutes. And although her mask is lightweight, her corset is anything but.
Right away when you put it on, you have to stand up with your shoulders back and your chest forward, and that's something that helps you with that by wearing that corset. But some days, when it's a 2-show day and you've just eaten dinner, it's kind of hard because it's so heavy. But you have to, you know, you get used to it because you have to jump with it and dance with it.
Take this prayer to one out there. And don't forget, if you're a lioness, you also have to move like a cat in it. This Nala makes it look so natural.
In the make-believe world of The Lion King, everything we've seen so far seems so real when we add our imagination. And that's what really makes this show shine.
Wallace Smith plays the adult Simba, and he always keeps his eye on the energy of the young Simba.
Whenever we get any type of like rehearsal time, I like to watch and see what they do, because from watching their energy, you kind of, you know, you can see what you need to bring, you know, to keep the ball, or as I like to say, the balloon up in the air without letting it drop.
Smith says The Lion King's timeless because, like his character, we've all been lost at some point in our lives.
The Lion King is a very special piece. And people who come to see it will know exactly what I mean when they watch the show.
The Lion King has roared to unprecedented success since it first premiered in 1997. And the show here at the Spokane Opera House means you don't have to travel to New York and Broadway. The show runs now through December 4th at the Spokane Opera House. For tickets, call 325-SEAT. Hakuna Matata, a phrase in the show that means no worries. Well, now that I've given you your backstage pass, Hakuna Matata. It's time for you to come to the Spokane Opera House and see what all the theater goers are so excited about. I'm Susanna Bailon. Thanks for joining me. Good night.
It was amazing. Probably the best show I've ever seen.
The songs were just awe-inspiring.
It was fantastic. Totally awesome.
The production is amazing. I've come to a lot of plays, and this was by far the best one I've been to.
I loved it.
It was a tremendous experience. We thoroughly enjoyed it.